She pushes papers while we save lives, my brother Marcus announced to the ballroom, his voice carrying over the string quartet. He gestured toward the projection screen showing the Cardiac Foundation statistics. Real doctors. Real impact. 300 donors in black tie and evening gowns applauded. Crystal chandeliers threw fractured light across marble floors. The $2,000 per plate charity gala was going exactly as Marcus planned. I stood near the back wall in my off-the-rack dress, holding sparkling water while others sipped champagne. Marcus hadn't invited me. Our mother had last minute saying it would look bad if the whole family wasn't there. The Cardiac Research Foundation has secured $12 million in grant funding this year alone, Marcus continued, his face glowing on the screens. Chief Medical Officer. Youngest in the foundation's history. The family golden child, literally spotlit. Thanks to innovative research proposals and aggressive pursuit of federal opportunities, we've expanded our reach to 8 states. He clicked to the next slide. Smiling children. Grateful patients. Politicians shaking his hand. I watched donors pull out checkbooks. Watched the foundation board members nod approvingly. Watched my parents beam with pride from their front row seats. Marcus caught my eye across the room and smirked. He told me not to come. It's a professional event, Jamie. Not really your scene. You wouldn't understand the conversations. What I understood was medical billing compliance codes. What I understood was federal grant regulations. What I understood was that I'd spent 3 years as a senior analyst for the National Institutes of Health Office of Oversight and Compliance, reviewing every major cardiac research grant application in the country. What I understood was that Marcus's foundation had filed fraudulent claims totaling $8.2 million. Before I tell you what happened next, let me ask, have you ever had someone take credit for work that wasn't theirs? Drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you. I'd love to know who's part of our community. The grant applications started crossing my desk 18 months ago. I wasn't looking for problems with Marcus's foundation. I was reviewing applications alphabetically, and the Cardiac Research Foundation came up in my rotation. The first red flag: patient enrollment numbers. The foundation claimed 847 active research participants across 5 studies. But their institutional review board approvals, required federal documents, showed capacity for only 320 participants maximum. I pulled the detailed billing records. Each participant generated federal reimbursement. $4,200 per person annually for routine monitoring, $18,000 for advanced imaging protocols, $31,000 for surgical intervention studies. The math didn't work. 847 participants at blended rates meant $11.3 million in annual funding. But the actual participant ceiling was 320, which should cap funding at $4.3 million. Someone was claiming reimbursement for 527 phantom patients. I pulled 3 years of historical data. The pattern was consistent. Inflated participant numbers, every year, escalating gradually to avoid triggering automatic audit thresholds. Total fraudulent claims, $8.2 million. I checked the signature on the grant applications. Chief Medical Officer, Cardiac Research Foundation. Marcus Chen. My brother's name in blue ink, on documents swearing the participant numbers were accurate under penalty of perjury. I sat in my cubicle staring at the screen until my vision blurred. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Coffee had gone cold in my cup. I could flag it for standard review. Could let another analyst handle it. Could pretend I'd never seen the family name. Instead, I opened a priority investigation file and assigned it to myself. Let me tell you about Marcus and me. We're 18 months apart. He's older, taller, smarter, according to our parents. Doctor versus paper pusher. Surgeon versus bureaucrat. Golden child versus invisible daughter. Growing up, here's what Marcus got. Full college tuition, $180,000. Medical school funding, $320,000. Down payment on his condo, $150,000. New car for his residency, $45,000. Here's what I got. Community college tuition, 2 years $8,000. Told to figure out the rest myself. Worked 3 jobs to finish my bachelor's degree. Drove a 1998 Honda with 200,000 miles until the transmission died. When I got accepted to a master's program in health policy, I asked for help. Just $15,000 for the first year. Dad literally laughed. Jamie, be realistic. That's a lot of money for a degree that won't even make you a real doctor. Marcus was at that dinner. He just bought a boat. Said nothing. I took out loans. Worked full-time while taking classes at night. Graduated with $60,000 in debt and a job at NIH making $68,000 a year. Marcus made $340,000 as CMO, not counting his foundation bonuses tied to grant acquisition. Every Thanksgiving, Dad would ask Marcus about his research. Every Christmas, Mom would show friends Marcus's publications. Every birthday, they'd celebrate his achievements. I didn't even get invited to his wedding. Limited space, Mom explained. Plus you'd feel out of place with all the doctors. This is what they call normalized cruelty. Training someone to believe being invisible is what good daughters do. Teaching someone that their accomplishments don't matter because they're not the right kind of success. But I didn't complain. I documented. I waited. I learned the regulations better than anyone else in my office. And when Marcus's fraudulent applications landed on my desk, I was ready. The investigation took 14 months. I coordinated with the Office of Inspector General. We subpoenaed patient records, cross-referenced them with billing claims, interviewed research coordinators at each site. The fraud was elegant. Marcus had created a tier system. Real patients in Tier 1, partially fabricated patients in Tier 2, completely phantom patients in Tier 3. Tier 1 patients existed and received legitimate care. Tier 2 patients existed but had their treatment protocols exaggerated. Someone receiving basic monitoring would be billed as receiving advanced imaging. Tier 3 patients were pure invention. Fake names, fake medical records, fake consent forms. The foundation billed federal grants for all 3 tiers equally. We found ghost patients named after characters from medical dramas. We found duplicate social security numbers. We found consent forms with identical signatures across different patients. Marcus had done this himself. His administrative assistant testified that he personally managed the Tier 2 and 3 databases, claiming it was too sensitive for support staff. He'd signed every fraudulent grant application, every false progress report, every inflated reimbursement request. All of it federal crimes. 18 U.S.C. 1001 false statements, 18 U.S.C. 287 false claims, 18 U.S.C. 1343 wire fraud. Each violation carried up to 5 years in prison. The evidence was overwhelming. The prosecution was inevitable. I just had to wait for the right moment to reveal it. The moment came at the charity gala. Marcus finished his presentation to thunderous applause. Donors mobbed him, writing checks pledging support. The foundation board announced they were renewing his contract with a $100,000 raise. My parents hosted a champagne toast at their reserved table. To Marcus, Dad said loudly. The son who made us proud. I stayed at the back watching. Then Dr. Patricia Okonkwo stood up. Chair of the NIH Oversight Committee. Silver hair, steel spine, federal authority that could end careers with a sentence. She'd been sitting quietly at a side table for the past hour, observing. I'd told her exactly when to arrive, exactly what she'd see. Excuse me, Dr. Okonkwo's voice cut through the celebration like a scalpel. I need the room's attention. The ballroom went silent. The string quartet stopped mid-phrase. I'm Dr. Patricia Okonkwo, chair of the National Institutes of Health Oversight Committee. She pulled out her identification, holding it up. I'm here to present evidence regarding fraudulent claims made by this foundation. Marcus's face went white. Then red. Then white again. Over the past 18 months, my office has conducted an investigation into grant applications submitted by the Cardiac Research Foundation. We've discovered systematic fraud involving fabricated patient enrollment data, false billing claims, and misappropriation of federal research funds. She nodded to 2 people I recognized, agents from the Office of Inspector General. They moved toward the front of the room. The total fraudulent claims amount to $8.2 million. The investigation identified 527 phantom patients across multiple studies, billing for services never rendered to individuals who do not exist. Donors started looking at each other. Confused murmurs spread through the ballroom. Marcus found his voice. This is outrageous. I don't know who you are, but you can't just. I can, Dr. Okonkwo interrupted. And I am. The evidence is comprehensive and conclusive. Federal warrants were issued this afternoon for the seizure of foundation records and the arrest of the responsible parties. He pulled out a document. Marcus Chen, Chief Medical Officer, you are under investigation for violations of 18 U.S.C. 1001, 18 U.S.C. 287, and 18 U.S.C. 1343. These agents will be escorting you for questioning. The OIG agents reached Marcus. One of them spoke quietly to him. Marcus's knees actually buckled. Dad caught his arm. This is a mistake, Mom said, standing. Marcus would never. Ma'am, please sit down, one of the agents said firmly. Dr. Okonkwo looked across the ballroom and her eyes found mine. This investigation was led by one of NIH's most thorough analysts. Someone who understands that regulatory compliance isn't just paper pushing. It's the foundation of ethical research. She gestured toward me. Jamie Chin, would you please come forward? Every head in the ballroom turned. I walked down the center aisle. My cheap shoes clicked on the marble floor. 300 donors watched me approach the front. Marcus stared at me like I was a stranger. You, he whispered. Me, I confirmed. Dr. Okonkwo handed me a folder. Ms. Chen will be presenting the detailed findings to the Foundation Board. As senior investigator on this case, she has full authority to explain the regulatory violations. I opened the folder. Inside were documents I'd assembled over 14 months. Patient enrollment discrepancies, billing comparisons, false statements, forged signatures. The Cardiac Research Foundation claimed 847 active participants. I began, my voice steady. Federal regulations require strict documentation for each participant. Informed consent, IRB approval, medical records, billing justification. I pulled out the first exhibit. The Foundation's own IRB approvals show maximum capacity of 320 participants. That's a discrepancy of 527 individuals. I walked the board through it methodically. Each phantom patient. Each fabricated billing code. Each false certification. Marcus tried to interrupt twice. The OIG agents stopped him both times. The fraudulent claims followed a specific pattern, I continued. Tier 1. Legitimate patients receiving real care. Tier 2. Real patients with exaggerated treatments. Tier 3. Completely fabricated individuals. I showed them the evidence. Ghost patients named Meredith Gray and Derek Shepard. Duplicate social security numbers. Consent forms with identical signatures. These applications were personally signed by the chief medical officer. I pulled out Marcus's signature, blue ink on federal documents, swearing accuracy under penalty of perjury. Every fraudulent claim. Every false statement. Every fabricated patient. All certified by one person. I looked at Marcus. He was shaking now, face slick with sweat. My brother thought regulatory compliance was paper pushing, I said quietly. He thought the real work was research and surgery and saving lives. He thought oversight was bureaucracy for people who couldn't do real medicine. I closed the folder. But compliance is what separates ethical research from fraud. Documentation is what protects patients. Regulations are what ensure federal funds serve their intended purpose. I handed the folder to the Foundation's board president. Marcus didn't push papers. He pushed boundaries until he crossed into criminal activity. I pushed papers until I caught him. The room was absolutely silent. Dr. Okonkwo spoke again. The Foundation's federal funding is suspended effective immediately. All active grants are frozen pending full audit. The board has 72 hours to provide complete documentation or face institutional prosecution. She nodded to the OIG agents. They moved Marcus toward the exit. He looked back at me. How could you? His voice cracked. I'm your brother. You're a criminal, I replied. And I'm a senior federal analyst who takes her oath seriously. They let him out. The ballroom doors closed behind them with a soft click. The aftermath was brutal and beautiful. The Foundation collapsed within 6 months. The board resigned. Federal auditors found additional violations Marcus hadn't even hidden well. The total fraud climbed to $11.4 million. Marcus pled guilty to avoid trial. 3 years federal prison, $8.2 million restitution, permanent ban from federal research funding, medical license suspended. My parents called me once. Dad's voice was cold. You destroyed your brother's career over paperwork. I stopped a criminal from stealing millions in research funds meant for actual patients, I corrected. The paperwork was just evidence. You're not welcome at family events anymore. Good, I said and hung up. The extended family split predictably. Half think I'm a vindictive bureaucrat. Half think I'm a hero who protected federal research integrity. I received a promotion. Director of Grant Compliance, NIH Office of Oversight. My salary doubled. My work now shapes federal policy. Marcus gets out in 18 months. I heard he's planning to write a book about overreach in medical regulation. I hope he does. It'll make excellent evidence for his parole hearings. 2 years later I'm thriving. New city, new friends, work I believe in. I still push papers, but my papers have weight. My signatures mean something. My analysis protects billions in federal research funding. Marcus was right about one thing: he saved lives. Just not as many as he claimed and not honestly enough to matter. I don't save lives. I save the integrity of systems that save lives. I catch the people who exploit those systems. I ensure federal research funds actually serve patients instead of enriching fraudsters. Sometimes the person pushing papers is the only one who knows what the papers actually say. Marcus laughed at my career. The Oversight Committee follows my lead. The difference is my work doesn't require fabricating success. It requires documenting failure. And nobody documents failure better than someone who spent a lifetime being invisible. The trash took itself out. I just filed the paperwork correctly.